So speaking of Jensen Brooksby, what a British name. It just doesn't get any more British than that. I mean, I can imagine, like if I go to a British pub or whatever, I probably walk in, you see 4 or 5 guys with a name that sounds like Jensen Brooksby.
Oh yeah, just a bunch of, and I've done some research living with a couple of British guys, and what they the word to get inebriated over there is to get trolleyed. And I just think that is so funny.
Let's get trolleyed with the boys tonight.
Like, mate, that's a big 6-4, 7-5 win for you. You want to get absolutely trolleyed at the pub tonight? Like,
we're back in the New York groove. The boys are back in town. We got Matt, Jared, and Eric. We are going to be sharing our most embarrassing moments or worst tennis moments, and then we will follow that up by our tennis betting for the week. Matt, what do you got? Let's start it off.
All right, so we're going to bring it back to the it's got to be 2017 Red River Open, somewhere there, 2017, 2018. I was actually playing one of our commentators as well, Mr. Jared Sowie, and for I believe the first time. And for those of you that don't know, Jared Sowie has got a very unique game that is very frustrating to play. And in the second set, I think I got down, and I proceeded to slam my hat on the court loud enough for it to be heard in Wahpeton. And that will be forever known as the Red River hat throw. So obviously not a great look for me, but yeah.
Yeah, it provided you the energy necessary to come back and beat me, though. So hey, it worked out for you.
Yeah, very happy we did not go to the third set. I was not in the mental capacity to do that.
Sorry, what's your most embarrassing or worst tennis moment?
Yeah, I was thinking back. I think mine happened all the way back in high school tennis. I was a junior, and we were playing in the conference tournament, which Montevideo always hosted. And I was playing the best kid in the section, Jess Hansen. He won the conference like 9th through 12th grade. I mean, he was unbelievable in high school, and ended up playing for the Johnnies. So we got to play against Jess in college too a little bit. But we had played each other I swear, 12 or 13 times throughout our high school careers. And we were playing in the conference tournament, and I hit what I thought was a cross-court volley winner, which, if you know me, not much for a volleyer. So I kind of had to get what I could get. So I thought it was a volley winner. Jess, was up at the net. He turned, he looked, and he called it out. And it was close. I mean, I really don't know if it was in or out, but in the moment, I kind of questioned it. I wasn't, freaking out, but I said something like, "Hey man, I'm not so sure about that one." And my parents on the far side of the court, sitting behind Jess, started yelling at me, "Jared, that was in. It was in." and I had to backtrack completely, and it was super embarrassing. And I'm sure I just shut up a little bit after that one. So I'm sure that ride home in the car was kind of fun after that match. But yeah, that was a little embarrassing. I had my opponent and my parents both yelling at me from that side.
Eric, what do you got for?
My story actually goes all the way back also to high school, but to my first ever high school event. So in North Dakota, if you're a tennis player, it's pretty common to start playing high school matches when you're in junior high. So I was 12, and it was my first overnight road trip of any athletic event of any kind that I wasn't staying with my parents. And so I was staying with the team. We were hanging out. It was a great time, but my parents were really nervous about it, just kind of the nature of their personalities. So the trip was a little bit high pressure from the start. And then we get to the court site. It's a big invitational, so all the teams are there. We're doing a warm-up run. I'm jogging. I'm 12, so I'm 5 feet tall. I'm wearing an adult large T-shirt that somebody just handed down to me, so it's down to my knees. And I'm jogging, and I'm behind everybody. And out of the corner of my eye when I'm jogging, I catch these incredibly bright pair of tennis shoes. It was it was like the Nike like Zoom cages or something from
Yep.
2010 or whatever, and they were bright neon yellow on the toes. And so I looked to my side and I'm like, wow, those are the sweetest shoes I've ever seen. And right as I'm admiring these shoes, I go clunk. I run into a pole that was sticking out of the fence. And so it's just it's a mess, you know, blood's going everywhere. That my teammates look back, they treated me like their little brother anyway. And so they're like, oh, what's going on? It's emergency. So they call my parents who are already nervous and they're like, Eric's bleeding. We don't know what happened. It was just a calamity of events that ended up making me play the entire invitational in a really thick Under Armour headband. So I was definitely the focus of the tournament that day. Whoever this dweeb was wearing a giant headband with a bandage on his forehead.
Big
But that was
goose egg
me.
up there.
Yep.
My favorite, or I guess worst tennis moment, I remember this super vividly, kind of like Sally's in a sense of the parents, but I can't remember the guy who I was playing. I don't remember the score, but what I do remember is he was awful. He was so bad. And this was like after probably I played for 2-3 years, so I was pretty good. And anyways, play him, I'm just destroying this guy. So I start like kind of playing like a little bit, I don't know, more tentative. So I'm like just kind of like hitting over because I feel bad for the guy because I'm just killing him. So I'm like, I'm gonna try to make the points a bit closer and just like make him feel better so he just doesn't get destroyed. So after the match, get done, I'm like, whatever, like it was 6-0, 6-0, I'm assuming, or maybe 6-0, 6-1. And my mom just comes up to me so angry. She like pulls me aside. She's like, what are you doing? And she was so mad that I didn't like play my hardest like the whole match. And I was just kind of like, just letting this kid like win a few points here and there. I felt so bad for that kid after the match too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it came off like that. But
You were giving him the mom game, you know. That's the classic. Like, I mean, everybody's had those weird high school experiences where you play a kid that's just terrible. Like, I remember I used to play against kids. They would play in jeans, you know, like they just play. So that was like what you did there, Isaac, was you gave them a mom game. I used to tell them if they're like in my head, I would say if their mom showed up to the match, I would let them win one game so that they could be like, hey, mom, like, did you see that I won that one game? And I called it the mom game. So that was what you were doing there with that kid too.
Okay, so let's go down the rabbit hole in terms of betting. Matt, what do you got for a bet on this week between Basilashvili and then Brooksby?
I've seen Basilashvili really get irritated with crowds and stuff. I think I remember at Wimbledon a couple of years ago, him just like completely just he's not the type of guy to slam rackets and stuff like Kyrgios, but he'll just check out a lot of the times when that kind of stuff's going on. So I think Brooksby knows that. And I think Brooksby is going to be on his worst behavior, knowing that too. I'm sure he's researched into that as well. So I'm going to hammer the under on games. I think Brooksby makes him mad at the beginning of the match and rolls. I know Brooksby has done that to people recently where he'll just like win like 0-2 just purely based on the fact that he just like gets in their head. And then once Brooksby's, you know, in your head, it's pretty hard to get going. So I'm going to put $20 on the under on games.
That's a good bet. Eric, what do you got?
I'm going to go a bit of a different direction. I think Brooksby is a little bit calm after the storm a little bit, where he faced some backlash for his racket toss in the previous round. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I do something regrettable on the tennis court, the next time I play, or even later that match, if it happens early enough, it's always a bit of a letdown. So I'm going to anticipate that from him, and I'm going to pick Basilashvili to cover the game spread at plus 3.5.
That's plus 108.
Yep. And I'm going to do a $30 bet on that. I'm going to go a little bigger.
$30 bet? Heck yeah. Go big or go home. Jared, what do you got?
You know, I'm going to tend to agree a little bit more with Eric here. And I think not so much on the behavioral factor, but I was just looking through the bets, and there's not a lot of great bets here that I like, just because, like we talked about, it seems to be a little bit of a toss up. I could see this one going either way. Yes, Brooksby's playing better right now, but with when you got two personalities like this that come together, you really it's difficult to predict what's going to happen. And I don't love some of the bets, so I am also going to place. I'm going to place the same bet as Eric, except I'm just going to put $20 down instead of 30. So
All right, you bet. And then to top it off for myself, I do think Brooksby's going to win. He's minus 315. So if you bet $1, you get 3 in return. So really not too much value in that. Basilashvili is plus 240, and that's the money line. He's 2-0 versus Brooksby. Eric, you bring up a great point with him redeeming himself. And I do think Brooksby's going to win, but I just can't get away from plus 240. I'm going to put $20 on that. I'm gonna try to double my winnings this week, and we'll see what happens. So there you have it. We got Jensen Brooksby versus Nicholas Basilashvili. Let's go.